This is an overview for a student project for 7th and 8th graders to produce a photo collection of 15 plant galls from oak trees in the American Parkway. Along the way, we'll learn about the American River Parkway, what plant galls are, the different types of plant galls, and how to collect scientific data. The American River Parkway stretches for 23 miles. It spans both sides of the American River as it winds from the Folsom Dam through the city of Folsom, the city of Rancho Cordova, through Sacramento, where it empties into the Sacramento River. For this project, we'll focus on just the main 3 types of oaks found in the American Parkway, those being Quercus lobata, the valley live oak, Quercus wislesinii, the interior live oak, and Quercus douglasii, the blue oak. There are other types of oaks found here. Most of them are invasive or escaped from horticulture plantings. But the main 3 types of trees are the valley oak, the interior live oak, and the blue oak. What I hope to impart to you is that each of the oak trees that we talk about are different, and one of the easiest ways to tell them apart is simply by looking at their leaves. The differences are pretty obvious. Quercus douglasii, the blue oak, has a bluish-green sheen, rounded lobes, but is more gentle and less severe than those lobes found on Quercus lobata. For Quercus wislesinii, the leaves are often toothed, without deep lobes, and often are a vivid green. The method of telling these trees apart is not entirely to botanists' pleasure, as oak trees are sometimes very confusing even to master-level botanists. But for the sake of this project, these definitions should work fine. Being able to identify the trees is important because as you collect scientific data, you'll want to know which galls came from which trees. To that end, you can pretty much divide the American River Parkway into 3 segments. The first stretches from the mouth of the American River, where it empties into the Sacramento River, and upwards towards William Pond and River Bend Park. Those are the areas where you'll find most of Quercus lobata. From River Bend Park up to Sailor Bar, you'll find many stands of Quercus wislesinii, and above that area from Sailor Bar up through the Nimbus Dam, you'll find Quercus douglasii. That is not to say that you won't find these trees mixed, but oak trees are very specific to elevation, so it would be unlikely to find the blue oak, Quercus douglasii, any lower than Sailor Bar. It would be unlikely to find Quercus wislesinii down in Sutter's Landing or in the lower portion of the lower American River. However, Quercus lobata seems to be everywhere, but in great numbers it is found mostly in the lower area of the lower American Parkway. So now that we have a basic understanding of the trees and where they're located, let's talk about what plant galls are and some of the resources that you'll need or that are helpful in making this project successful. 2 books that were very helpful for me when I made my project was Oaks of California and A Field Guide to Plant Galls. both of which are available through the Sacramento Public Library system. And both are very useful, one for helping you understand the differences between oaks, and second, for a fairly decent listing of plant galls that you will likely encounter in the parkway. So, what is a gall? Well, on page 5 of Ron Russo's book, Field Guide to Plant Galls, he says, galls are tumor-like growths of plant tissues produced by a host plant in response to a chemical and/or mechanical stimuli of an invading organism, a fungus, mites, or an insect. There are many types of galls, and they come in a variety of shapes and colors, and you find them in different locations on trees. But for this project, we're going to focus on just 3 types of galls, those being leaf galls, stem galls, and integral stem galls. So leaf galls are just that. They're galls that are formed on leaves of trees or plants. Sometimes they're on the top of the leaf, sometimes they're on the underside of the leaf, and sometimes they span both sides. The 2 types of stem galls are very different from each other. So we talk about stem galls, those being galls that are formed on the outside of the stem that are easily removable from the plant without taking the stem with it, and integral stem galls, which are actually comprised of the stem, and in order to collect them, you would have to take the stem with you. The best time of year to find stem galls is in the winter time or early spring. This is because oak trees shed their leaves, mostly, when winter comes. So it's easier to see them on the barren trees. So now that we've talked about the American Parkway, how to tell the trees apart, and what the differences are between galls, we can talk about your project, right? So your goals for this project are to create a photo collection of 15 galls, to document this journey using scientific data, and to identify each of your 15 galls scientifically, and to produce a journal that recreates your collections as an experience. So some of the tools you'll need are a camera, and a cell phone camera works just fine. You'll need an app that has a compass with longitude and latitude and hopefully altitude. And you'll need a journal and a pen and the willingness really to discover what's available in nature. So when photographing a gall, you want to make sure that you take multiple pictures of the gall and that the photographs clearly show your gall's shape, size, and the coloration. Don't get too creative. You want it to look authentic. So when you use your journal, what you want to do is to state facts, and the data should be very specific to your collection and each day that you are out collecting. You want to include a date for your locations and all of the information from your compass. And the goal is really to write an account that someone else can recreate if they wanted to. Speaking of dates, there's a correct way to write them. It's the 2-day day followed by the month spelled out, followed by a 4-digit year. Each time you photograph a gall, you are at a location and you want to collect that data. So use your smartphone or your GPS and write down the longitude and latitude and altitude and a physical description of where you are. From the main parking lot, we took the main trail to the left for about a half a mile. You may also want to note other types of life that you find along your journeys. So what kind of oak tree was it? Were there animals about? Did you see other insects? Those sorts of details go really well into your field journal. Be sure to include information about the weather and anything that you find interesting while you're out. Capturing things that are interesting is important when you share your data. They're small, they're big, some are on leaves, some are on twigs, some are growing at the base of trees. So you really want to capture all of those details, including the color of the gall, the texture, what it looks like, what its shape is. The more detail that you can put down, the better. In this example on the video, I happen to know which little wasp created this gall, and so I wrote it down, right? So I also described the shape. It's a muffin shape. It's a conglomerate of galls. It was found on a Quercus lobata on the underside of the leaf along the main vein of the leaf. That information is important. Another example of how to make a journal entry is as follows with this spiny gall found on Quercus wislesinii. You want to describe the shape of the gall. It's spherical. You want to describe its texture. It is covered with tiny spines. What are the spines like? Do they break off easily? Are they sharp? All of those little details go into your journal. So be prepared to spend some time really studying each gall that you find.